friends, Tiffany here. Welcome to my quilting life. So today is week 3. We're starting week 3 of our Skulliver sew along. If you don't know what that is, Skulliver is from Legit Kits. It is a kit from Legit Kits. You could find the link up here. And we are sewing this up week by week until it's finished. But this is super awesome, and I can't wait for this to be done. But we're only on week 3, so we need to get this week taken care of before it's done, because we have a lot of weeks to go. So let's get to week 3 of the Skulliver sew along. Okay, so let's open our book for Skulliver, and you can see all of the ones we have done so far for week 1 and 2. I'm going to open to the end of my book, and I am going to grab the pages we are going to be sewing this week. So page 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So page 13 through 18, we're going to pull out, and we are going to be working on those. So let's put the book away. Well, hopefully put the book away. There we go. All of my pieces are nicely in here. Well, mostly nicely in here. All right, so we're going to move that aside, and I'm going to share with you today what I'm changing a little bit. So I went and borrowed from a friend a light box. So this is what a light box looks like. And if I go like that, you can see the light through it, and it has 3 different strengths. And what we're going to be doing this time is I'm going to hope to be able to cut my pieces out using this light box. So just as an example, I'm going to grab a piece of fabric from my pile. I know this is not the one I'm using, but if I lay it on here, you can see my paper through the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting my pieces out using this light box, and hopefully that helps, because I spoke about it in video 1. We're hoping that it works now, because I really couldn't see through my pieces. So we're going to be using this light box and hope that I don't cut my papers and only the fabric, but we should be able to do this very easily, hopefully. Okay, so first things first, we need to identify all of the color codes on each sheet, and we're going to pull those out. So just go from RE to Z, SG, YE, and FD. I'm going to go ahead and pull all those, and then I'll go to the next page and get P and C, and then I'll go to the next page, and so on and so forth until all of my colors are pulled. You guys know my filing system, but if you need a refresher, let's go over and look. All right. So as a refresher, here is my filing system. These are my fat 8ths, fat 16ths, 3/8 of a yard, my little scrap squares, my 1 1/4 yard, and my 1/4 yard. So what we do is we grab my sheet, and I need RE, and then I open up my book to my page in my book right here, and I find RE, which is in alphabetical order. So RE is robin egg, and that is in my 1/4 yards. So I'll go over here and go find robin egg, pull it out, set it aside, because that is my piece that I need for that. Then my next one right here is SG. Again, alphabetical order. SG is sea glass. That is in my 1/8 yards, so that would be right here. And I look for SG. So here is my SG. I pull it out, and I stick it aside. Then we go over to YE. YE is Sea Mist, and it's in my quarter yard. Pull that out. So there's my YE. Then I go to FD. So that would be on this page. And it's in alphabetical order again. FD is my bleach white, and that is in my 8th. So FD is right here. I pull that out. And then Z. And Z is regular white. So that is in my 1/8 yard also. Right here. So there is my Z. I have pulled that out. And this page, I have now all my pieces from. So I'm going to repeat that with the rest of all my pages and pull out all of the colors that are on every single sheet. So before I pull everything, I just want to show you guys that I found some in my stuff, some clear folders or clear plastic things. I'm going to actually use these to put my blocks in. So here's all my blocks. I'm actually going to use these to put them in it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find page 1, which is right after the code, the fabric list by code. I'm going to find that, and I'm going to go ahead and take, like, let's see how many pages there are of this. So it goes from page 1 to 17. I'm going to see how many of these I have. 13 of them. So I'm going to do 2 pages worth of pieces per each one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick one of these in after every 2 pages, because I'm going to start filing all of my finished pieces in these to hold them in place so that they don't fall out, since I was just filming and they fell out. So every 2 pages I'm going to put one of these in. I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. And I'll be right back on how I'm going to file them. So before I get to anything else, I'm going to go ahead and see. Here is A6C. A6C is in these first 2 pages worth. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that inside this because I don't want to lose my pieces. A7D. So I'm just going to go through and go, where is A7D is right there. So that's also going to go in this page. Just going to lay those in there nicely. A6D. A6D is over here also. I'm going to assume that this is all my A's. A5B. A5B is this pile. A8A. We're just going to look right here before putting it on there. A8A. A8C. A8A. I don't see it here. A8A. Oh, it's way up there. So that goes in this pile. A7A. It's right there. A7B. It's right there. A7C. Right there. A8C. Right there. A6B. A6B. A6A. A5A. Right there. A3A. Right there. A4. A4 is not on there. I'm going to assume A4 is its own piece. It's going to go there anyway. A3B, A3B, A2, and A1. So all these, I'm going to go ahead and file into this folder. Every single one of these, because these are all the A's. So everything from here is going to go in here. And it's the size of a sheet of paper, so it all should fit beautifully. There we go. Now I shouldn't open my book and then fall out on me constantly. So those are in there. Let's go back to my chart and get back to pulling some colors, and I'm going to do that off camera. Okay. Now I know this has got light echoing on the screen, but we're going to try to make this work. So I'm going, now that I have all of my pieces out, I'm going to put my first piece on this light box. And the paper's kind of sticking to it pretty good. It's actually like really good. Anyway, and I'm going to go through and pull my pieces and cut them to size. So here is my PP, which is for part 4. I'm just going to lay this on here in the best position possible, making sure that I have a 1/4 inch or more all the way around. I'm going to come in, and I'm not cutting my paper, I'm only cutting my piece. And that actually worked really good. I know for a fact I have more than I need all the way around. So the P part is cut. I'm just going to set that aside. Then I'm going to do UN, which is right here. Just going to lay this on here. I figured this would be the easiest way with this light box. I don't know how many people have tried this, but so far it seems good. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this piece. So my UN is cut. I'm just going to set that aside. BC, I'm just going to grab BC. And this needs a pretty large piece. Let's lay this right here. No. Probably says in the book the best way for it to lay, but I'm not cutting according to the book. I'm cutting according to what's easy for me. Here we go. I'm going to lay this on here. I want to make sure that I have more than a 1/4 inch all the way around. So I'm just going to cut right here. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut right here. Again, I'm not cutting my paper. I'm just cutting my fabric only. So BC. I'm going to cut BR, which is my next one right here in my spot number 1. So let's find its best angle. And you can see this is working quite lovely. I'm going to go ahead and making sure I'm covering down here. Let's go this way with it. Let's see. Ooh, it's covering there quite nicely. So I'm just going to cut right here. And cut. Right there. And you can see my piece is oversized, but obviously this extra section that piece is garbage. This piece can just go over with it. All right, so let's move that out of the way. And I need MZ. Where did I put MZ? Did I not pull it? Because I can barely see it. All right, give me a second to find my MZ. Oops. I didn't pull it because I didn't pull it. All right, so I'm going to lay this on here. I'm going to cut it out. So there's my MZ piece right there. So now I have all my pieces cut out for this. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick these on the paper and put them aside. And I'm going to go to the next. Just going to lay the paper on here. And I'm going to repeat what I just did. So I'm going to go to CH. Find CH. And some of these are used in other pieces. So CH. Right there. So that covers that. set it aside. I'm just going to put it right there because I'm going to need it again. QI. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my QI while I make my lovely mess here. I'm trying to keep it to where I can see all of the letters because those letter codes are important throughout this whole process. So I'm at QI. So I'm just going to find a spot to put it. Let's see. Let's see, right there. Ooh, right there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And again, I'm not cutting according to the directions, but there is supposed to be enough of every single piece. So there's my QI, and it's big enough all the way around. Just going to go ahead and fold this extra piece up with it. Okay, move it aside. We're going to stick that on there. QW. So I'm going to pull my QW, which has never been cut into yet. I'm going to lay it on here. I'm going to turn it this way. Right there. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Okay. Next is BI. So BI. Only the fabric, not the paper. So there's BI. And then UN. All right, let's find my UN. Just going to go ahead and cut another sliver off of this one. Right there. And now all the pieces for this are ready. So I'm just going to put it aside. We're going to grab this one. So I have GE to start. So I'm going to go ahead and pull GE. Going to lean it on here. Cut it out. So GE is where I want it. Next is CH, right here. Go ahead and cut CH. Then I'm going to go to QI. That's V. Let's find QI right here. And I actually had a piece already on QI. So we're just going to go ahead and look and say, okay, that covers it. So there's my QI piece already cut because I'm still using the little cutoffs. Then I need QW. So QW. Go ahead and grab this. I'm going to lean it on this side now. All right, QW has been cut out. Move that aside, and my last piece is BI. Here's my BI. Literally just need a little piece down here. All right, so all the pieces for this one are now cut out. I'm just going to set that aside. Move on to the next. V covers my largest area. Hoping this is the last I need of V. Because there's not much left of it. I'm going to go ahead and pull the sticker off. Replace it on here. Put my piece back down. And since this is a solid, it didn't matter which is right or left, up or down, right side or wrong side. All right, there's my V cut out. Now I need CJ. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out CJ. Just going to line this up. There's my CJ. It covers the piece almost exact. I'm going to need that again, so I'm just leave it right there. P. Let's see, how big of a piece do I need for P? Because I do have a little cutoff right here. Ooh, and I can see that clearly, so this works. There's my cutoff I'm using. I don't got to cut P yet. G, E. So I'm going to go ahead and find my G, E. Find the perfect spot. Ooh, right there. Covers the whole thing. There we go. GE has been cut out. Put that aside. X. There's my X. Just going to lay this right here. Go ahead and cut X out. There we go, is my X. And now all the pieces for here are cut out. Next is P, which takes up most space, and CJ. So I'm just going to lay the CJ piece on here. Actually, let's go this way with it. I turned it upside down. And remember, I'm cutting a 1/4 inch larger, than where my black line is. So you can see my lines through this mat. I think I'm really, really glad that this was able to be borrowed, because I would be stressing if not trying to cut these pieces. All right, now let's go to my P, which is black. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, lay it on here, and I can even see through this. So I'm going to lay my piece on here. I'm also going to retouch that light somewhere. Where did I turn it on? 3, right there, on its brightest setting. And go ahead, lay this on here neatly. It's covering all 4 sides. And I'm going to go ahead and cut out my P right there. So there's the 2 pieces needed for that. And then here's our last one. So page 13. We're going to go FD. All right, FD. I'm going to go to about right here. Cut this out. Okay, there's that. Then I need YE. Let's move that out of the way. YE, no matter what I do, let's come down right here. Just going to cut it oversized. There's my YE. And then SG. Gonna lay SG right here. There's SG. Lay that there. RE. Go right here. Covering that, covering that. There we go. RE and Z. So I'm just going to make sure it covers where I need it to cover. There we go. And that is all of my pieces cut out. Okay, here we are at the sewing machine. We are going to start with page 13. I'm going to stick all of my colors over here in the throat. I'm going to also use my scissors to roughly cut out this page, just like that, just to get rid of all that excess paper. I'm going to go ahead now and pre-fold on the lines, just like this, on all of my black lines using kind of like a piece of, it's like cardboard, but it's not. It's like cardstock, that's what it is. The word wasn't coming to me right away. Come on, right there. There we go. All right, so I've pre-folded all my lines. I'm going to look for space 1, which is RE. That is this one right here. There's my space 1. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the back side. And I'm going to go ahead, because I'm struggling with seeing, I'm going to turn my light on out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and lay my piece on there and say, ooh, that's where I want it, right here. I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it just so that it stays where I want it. And then the next one is number 2, SG. So SG is this one right here. And it was this direction. So we're going to go ahead and put it in that direction. I'm going to lay it on where I want it. Goes there. So it's going to go ahead and go right there. I'm going to flip it over and see, does it cover? I'm going to cut between 1 and 2 so I have a nice straight line for my 1/4 inch seam. I figured I'd start doing that in advance. And then place this on here and say, ooh, that's the way I want it. I'm going to line it up on there and say, ooh, that's the way I want it. Just like that. Come on, cover it all the way. It doesn't help that my light is kind of far away from me. Okay, I'm going to pin it in place, turn it upside down, and sew on my line. Before I do anything, I'm going to check to make sure it covers it, and it does. So I'm going to go ahead and fold back and trim away my 1/4 inch seam. And I'm going to go ahead and press it. Then I'm going to fold between 2 and 3. And I'm going to go ahead and cut my straight line there. Okay, so between 2 and 3 is ready. So let's see what spot 3 is. YE. That would be this one. That is funky cut. There. I'm going to go ahead and lay it on here, making sure on my light that it's covering it. And it is. Go ahead and pin it in place. Although to me this takes forever, but I'm going to do it anyway because of my issues the last 2 weeks. Okay, they're lined up. I'm going to go ahead and sew between 2 and 3. Fold it back. I don't really have a seam allowance to trim up there, so I'm just going to go ahead and take my pin out, fold it back, roll it. I'm going to fold between my 3 and 4 line. And I'm going to go ahead and trim that to size. All right, piece 4 is FD, which is the bleached white one. So that's this one. And let's just make sure that's the angle I wanted it. We're going to lay it on here. Pin it in place. sew between line 3 and 4. Press it back, and it covers my piece perfectly. Now I need Z, which is this one right here. Let's see which way I cut this bad boy. Cut it like this. So it's going to go like this. So we're going to fold between, and peel my paper back, and fold between 2 and 5. Just going to pop the paper stitches, the paper. I'm going to go ahead and cut my seam allowance away now. I'm going to line this up on here, making sure that it's covering the whole thing. And it is. I'm going to go ahead and sew on that line between 2 and 5. I'm going to roll it back, and it covers my whole piece. And now page 13 is done, or A8B is ready to be trimmed, but we're just going to stack them aside until we trim. So I'm just going to put that aside. We're going to grab the next piece, which is B1, or page 14. And I already know what size this needs to be, so what we're going to do is just go ahead and fold right here on this line. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and pin this in place. I know that this piece of black, or color P, is covering all the way, and it is. Oops. It'd be nice if it was on the opposite side. All right, let's repin that in place. I'm going to go ahead and fold this back and make a nice straight line first, making sure nothing is moving or shifting, which it is. So I got to prevent that. And then we're going to add CJ. So the piece goes on like this. I'm just going to flip it to this side. I'm going to lay it on here. Just like that. I'm not going to pin it because it's already, the black is already pinned. I'm just going to turn it over and sew on the line between 1 and 2. I don't need to cut no seam allowance away there because it was pretty much the size it needed to be. And just because we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to put a couple stitches right there within the seam allowance to hold this down. It's just in the seam allowance. It's holding that black piece down so that it doesn't move or shift before I get a chance to trim it to the size right here. And I just stitched in the seam. I usually do a basting stitch, but I didn't want to change the size of my stitch length just for this piece. So B1 is done. Set it aside. Let's grab page 15, or B2A. I'm going to put the fabric pieces on the one side over here. I'm going to go ahead and trim the paper. Roughly trim it, throw it out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and fold now on all of my black lines. Just like that. 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 And I'm going to find spot 1, which is V. V is cauliflower. No, cornflower, which is this one. I'm going to go, okay, that goes there. I'm going to bring it over to the light box, lay the paper on there where it needs to be. So I brought it up here where I can see because I was reaching a little too far. So it's making sure right now that I'm covering all the lines, and I'm going to pin this in place. My number 2 spot is the X, but before I do that, I'm just going to fold it back on the line and make myself a nice straight line. And then we're going to take X. X is eggplant. Oh no, eucalyptus. Right here. X is going to go like this. I'm just going to flip it onto this back side, just like this. Lay it on there. It's plenty big enough. And I'm going to go ahead and just flip it over, holding it in place, and I'm going to sew on the line between 1 and 2. Before I do anything, I'm going to make sure that it's covering, and it is. So I'm going to go ahead and fold on that line and trim away my seam allowance, flip it over, roll it. I'm just pulling the fabric apart to roll it. All right, now for between 1 and 3. So I'm going to fold on that between 1 and 3 line. And I almost have a perfect 1/4 inch seam, but I'm going to straighten it up ever so slightly. And we're going to choose CJ, which is this purple color. And I'm assuming it's going like this. So I'm just going to pick it up and place it like this on here, making sure that it's covering the whole piece, and it is. So I'm going to flip it upside down now and sew between 3 and 1. Before I do anything, I'm going to fold it back, and it's covering where I need it to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the excess seam allowance. I'm going to stretch my fabric open and roll it. Okay, now we're going to go to spot P, which is my black. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this back. I'm going to trim away my 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to find my black piece, and I'm going to say, ooh, that's where it's supposed to be. I'm going to flip it over just like this and sew this one on here. So I'm just going to lay it flat. Nothing's moved. Just going to hold it and sew it between 3 and 4. I'm going to go ahead and trim away that seam allowance because I know that the piece, no, it did not. Hold on. I got to rip it, and we got to go up a little. So just be very careful when ripping your pieces. And this is going to happen to me several bazillion times because I'm just a beginner. Like I told you guys, I've done this a handful of times, well, 2 handfuls of time. And we're going to stick with it, though. We're not going to give up. We're going to do what we got to do. All right. Just going to pull those threads away. I'm going to go ahead and slide this up some. There we go. That's about where I want it, but we need all this out of the seam. Okay. I'm going to make sure if I go like this, and it covers it. It does. come back over here and try that again. One more time. This time I should get it right. All right, let's fold it back now. Oh, yay, it covers it this time. I'm going to go ahead and trim away that 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to roll it back. Press it. Now for between 1 and 5. So I'm just going to fold on that line. I'm going to pluck away my paper, not my seam, just my paper to my line. I'm going to fold this part back right there, and I'm going to trim a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So it's my guide. Okay, that's where I need it. And the last piece, that's only one left, is GE, which is Grape Mist. And it covers the spot like this. So I'm going to just take it and flip it. It does not look right to me. I want it right there. So it has quite a bit of hangover because I cut it oversized. Go right there. Is that my 1/4 inch seam right there? Let's bring the light box over and look. I'm going to go ahead and fix this up. There we go. Is that better? Oh, it's better. Go ahead and stick that on there. Move the light out of the way. And sew. Make sure that it covers it. Ooh, and it does. We did a good job there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and press it. And B2A is now complete. Everything is covered within all the seam allowances. Now let's work on the next. So page 16, go ahead and rough cut this out. And we're going to grab piece 1, which is CW, or QW, sorry. QW is Summer Pear. That goes right there. I'm going to make sure. Really don't need the light box for that one because it's plenty sized. I need my pin though, and it must have fell on the floor. Well, that's just great. Okay, I'm going to move that out of the way. We're going to fold our pieces. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold on my black lines. Right there. Fold between 2 and 3. Right there. 3 and 4. Right there. 4 and 5. Right there. All right. Let's try that again. I'm going to lay this on here. I'm going to make sure looks correct to me. Everything's equal. That's where we want it. I'm going to go ahead and pin it in place. This is the part that frustrates me the most, is because we're sewing on the back side of the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and realign this. I'm going to use the light box because it's going to shift. Right there. I'm going to put that between right there. You can see the paper shifted already. I don't want it to shift, but it's paper, and paper has a mind of its own. Down just a little bit. I want it to stay exactly right here. There we go. That's where I want it. I'm going to go ahead now and fold on between 1 and 2, and I'm going to trim that excess away. We're going to go ahead and grab piece 2, which is BI, which is Bright Idea. It's this little guy right here. We're going to make sure I have him this way. We're going to make sure that he covers, and he does. All right, let's sew it on there. Oops. Kind of shifted a little. Whole thing keeps shifting. There we go. Let's make sure it covers it before I get rid of any seam allowance. And it does. And I really don't need to get rid of any seam allowance right now because that is lined up at a 1/4 inch where it's supposed to be. Now we're going to get QI, which is this one right here. QI is lemon ice. And again, it's also oversized. All right, we're going to fold up here between 1 and 3. Trim away my seam. We're going to make sure that this is the way it goes. I did cut it kind of big. I want it not that way, this way. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give a rough cut right here. Flip it onto this back side. And we're going to sew it on. All right, I'm going to flip it back before I do anything and say, oh yay, it covers it. And my selvage is out of the way as well. But before I do anything, I'm going to trim away that 1/4 inch seam. I'll go ahead and fold it back. I'm going to take my pin out because it's not needed now. And I'm going to come over here in between 3 and 4. I'm going to go ahead and trim my 1/4 inch seam between 3 and 4. All right. Now we're going to grab CH, which is this purple. And it's going to go right here. Just going to flip it over onto here and make sure that it covers it, and it does. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and sew it between 3 and 4. We're going to roll it back, and it covers my piece beautifully. Just going to trim away that seam allowance real quick. I'm going to press it. And lastly, we're going to do piece 5, 4 and 5. So I'm just going to fold this back on my line between 4 and 5 right here. I'm going to go ahead and trim away that excess. Come over here, grab my last piece, which is GE, which is Grape Mist. It was cut almost to size. We're just going to flip it onto this back side. I'm going to fold it over and make sure, and it does cover beautifully. I'm just going to go ahead, flip it over, and sew it on. We're going to make sure it's covering it before I trim anything away. It is. Let's trim away my seam allowance and then roll it back and press it with either your finger or your roller. And there is B2. 2B, or page 16 of 124. It's fully covered. Everything's done. Let's move on to the next. All right. Here we are with page 17 of 24. Move my pieces over. I'm going to go ahead and grab my paper to fold all my lines. So I'm just folding on the line, on the black lines. Right here. Okay. Piece 1 is QI. So QI is my lemon ice, which is this nice big chunk right here. I'm going to lay it on here and say, oh, that's where it's going to go. I'm going to check. I shouldn't have to use my light box for this one. Just going to make sure, because I cut it perfectly to size, almost. It's where I want it. We're going to go ahead and throw a pin in here. And actually, because it's such a large piece, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 pins in here. There we go. And I'm going to fold between 1 and 2. And I'm going to go ahead and trim away my seam allowance, so that way I have a nice straight line to work with. So that's on there and ready. Next is piece 2, QW, which was summer pear. So that is this piece right here. We're going to see that's the way I had it. So obviously I'm just going to take the piece. This is the top right here. So you can see I'm holding the top part and then I'm flipping the whole thing over, and that's where it's going to go, right there. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's covering the way I want it to. Nothing has moved. Just going to flip it over and sew between 1 and 2. All right, make sure that it covers it all the way, and it does. So now I need to trim away my seam allowance. I'm also going to remove those pins, open it up, roll it back. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and take between 2 and 3 and roll it back. And we're going to trim away that seam allowance. And if you don't know how that's done, these add a quarter rulers have a lip. You just line that lip up with the edge of the paper, and then you use your cutter to cut that away. So make sure nothing is in the way when I do that. Okay, that's ready now. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the next piece, which is BI, which is Bright Idea. So that is this beautiful big yellow piece, and it's the size I need. I'm just going to grab the top where I know it's going to sew on the line, flip it over, place it on there. It's where I need it to be. Turn it right sides up, or the paper right side up, and sew between 3 and 4. Again, before I do anything, I'm going to check to make sure, and it covers it beautifully. I also don't think I need to trim away a seam allowance. It looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead, roll that. And I do put a little bit of pressure on my roller when I roll it so that it stays down nicely. Next is between 4 and 3 and 4. So I'm going to just pluck away right here, exposing the fold right there. There we have it. I'm going to fold on my line, which goes all the way up, just like that. And I'm going to cut away that seam allowance. And that piece is BI, and BI. No, that's not BI. That's UN. UN is sunflower. Let's see, it was cut like this. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it under like this because that's the way it was cut. And I'm going to go ahead and flip it upside down and sew it on. And before I do anything, I want to make sure it covers my whole piece, and it does because I cut it kind of large. I'm going to trim away any excess. All right, we're going to roll it back. And then we need to do between 5 and 1. So I'm just going to fold this back. And I'm actually going to tack down right here because this piece, every time I move it, this whole top piece keeps falling. So before I do anything, I'm just going to tack it down right here in this corner within the seam allowance. That way it stops falling down as I do this. So again, folding between 1 and 5, we're going to cut away that excess. I'm going to go ahead and grab my last color because I know that that goes there, which is CH, which is orchid. We're going to go ahead and see which way I cut it. I cut it like that? Probably did. Or did I cut it like that? I have no idea. Well, we cut off the selvage. So I have a nice straight line to even see. There we go. That's the way it goes right here. So I'm going to flip it up on here, line it up. Again, flipping it over. It's all lined up. And I'm going to sew between 1 and 5. I'm probably doing this all unorthodox, and you guys are like, what in the heck is she doing? But again, I said I'm not a professional. I really am not, but I'm having fun with it. So here is my B3 or page 17. So there's that. On to page 18, which is the last page. I'm going to move all these over here. I'm going to trim away the excess on this page. We're going to go ahead and look at our pieces. But first, let's fold it. I keep thinking, you know, pieces, then fold, but I should do fold, then pieces. So I'm going to fold on all of my lines. Right there. Let's go this way with it, because I am in a tight spot here with the camera. I didn't move you guys like I did last week. I put you guys further back last week. This week, I'm keeping you right next to me again. All right, all my lines are folded. We're going to go for BR, which is butter. So that would be this large piece right here. And I know that's where I want it, and it's covering everything. So I'm going to put my paper on top of it. I'm going to bring my box over here just because I want to make sure. And it's on there, right there, right there. It's covering the whole entire seam allowance and all right there. So I'm going to toss some pins in it because I want it to stay. I'm going to put more than one because these corner pieces tend to move. All right, so between 1 and 3, I'm going to go ahead and trim away my seam allowance. And I'm also, well, actually between 1 and 2 first. Let's do 1 and 2 first. So I'm going to trim away my 1 and 2 seam allowance first. And then we'll grab the piece we need for that. So 2 is MZ. MZ is maize. That would be this one right here. And I know that's the size I need, so I'm just going to go ahead and get it on here, line it up, and sew it on because it's pretty accurate in the cut. Thanks to having a light box. And my friend, she knows who she is. She, the one that loaned it to me, was very smart to have said, Tiffany, I know you need it. And I was like, heck yeah. So that was awesome of her to loan it to me till I am done with this project. Oops. Let's fold this back. Just going to use my fingernail for that. It's fully covered. Now we're going to go between 1 and 3. So I'm just going to peel back right here on my folded line. I'm going to trim away the seam allowance. Everything's looking good, you can see. Now I need BC, which is Buttercup. That would be this large piece right here. All right, so I know BC goes like this. This is the top, so I want this to line up here. I'm just going to flip this whole thing over, and my fingers are on the side I need it to be on. That's where it's going to sit, just like this. I'm just going to hold it right here real quick and make sure it covers where I need it to cover. And it does. All right, that's where I want it. We're going to hold it, flip it, and sew it between 1 and 3. Okay. I'm going to make sure before I do anything, because this piece is, yep, perfect size. And I'm not going to trim away that seam allowance because it looks pretty good. It looks pretty lined up. I'm going to take my roller because my fingernail was not enough for that. All right, now between 3 and 4, I'm going to fold that back. Again, we're just pulling on the paper just to peel it away a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and trim that excess away. Piece 4 is PP, which is mac and cheese. So that's this piece that I cut. And I know that this is going to be the top, so I'm just going to hold it and put it right there. It's going to stick over a little bit. Just going to fold it up and sew it on. Before I do anything, I'm going to fold it back, and it covers where I need it to cover. I do want to trim away the seam allowance, though. I'm going to go ahead and fold that back. Now I'll fold this, and I'm going to roll it. And then we're going to go between 4 and 5, and UN is the next color, which is sunflower. Just going to peel this paper real quick, folding it on my line, and I'm going to get rid of that excess, because that's my seam allowance. Okay, so now you can see it's cut to size. This one was set to be this direction, so this is the side I want to sew on. Just going to hold it, flip it. I'm finding this to be a lot easier, and it's going a lot faster doing it that way. So now I'm sewing between 4 and 5. I'm going to roll it back, make sure it covers where it's supposed to, and it does. I'm going to get rid of that little excess amount of seam allowance. I'm also going to pull these pins out. We're going to roll it back. You can use your fingers or your roller. All right. So there is page 18. That's B4A. And that is ready to be trimmed. So I'm just going to stick it aside, and we're going to go to the next step. So the next step was to press our pieces. I have fully pressed mine, so don't forget to press them with a dry iron. Do not use steam. And I just want to show you, as you saw, how helpful having this light was. I did recommend it in the first video that it would be best to have something like this because, yeah, you can still see through these. You can see even through the black, not as good, but you can see that my pieces fully cover all the way where I needed them to cover, and this helped me cut them out. So if you have a light box, that would make it so much easier to put all these together. And if you have the kind that has the A4 cutting mat on it, that would even be better because you would just put your paper on there and you would use your rotary cutter and your ruler on your cutting mat that's on these lights, and you would just cut out a 1/4 inch and have exact size pieces. So just thought I would share that this has been helpful, this video. So I'm most likely going to continue using this because it helped me out. All right, so the next step is to take all of our pages, same as before, and we're going to cut on the outside of this gray line. So this gray line is our seam allowance when we hook all these pieces together. So if you cut on that black, you won't have your seam allowance no more, and you're going to ruin your quilt top. So you definitely want to make sure it's on the outside. And I am not cutting a perfect on the outside. I'm literally cutting it, and you can still see some white on the outside all the way down. So I'm not cutting exact, but I am at the same time. So I'm just making sure, you know, I have room for adjustment if I need. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim around this whole entire block, just like this. And one more cut right up here. And then all of my pattern pieces will be cut to the correct size. So I'm going to go ahead and trim all these up. Actually, I'm going to turn them all upside down. It makes it so much easier. And trim them all. And then we're going to put them away for now. All right, our pieces are trimmed. Now let's determine where they go. So I'm going to go ahead and open my book. We're going to see. So this is A8B. So this is going to be A8B is going to go in this stack right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and slide that one in there. B2A, I'm going to tell you right now, B's are on this page. So B2A, no, it's not on that page. Let's see. Ah, B2A is with this one. So this is going to go in here as well. This one is B2B. I'm going to assume it goes right there. So this one goes with this one. And see, these two pieces will be going together, B2A and B2B, according to this. But obviously, we'll get there when it's time to put everything together. But you can see right there, this is how it's going to go. So we're going to go ahead and just stick these where they go for now. All right, B4A. Now that has got to be on the next page. B4A is going to go in this file right here. I kind of like that I found my little see-through things for this. All right, B3. B3, was that over here? Well, it's not listed. So I'm just going to go ahead and put B3 with that, and this is B1. So I guess the bigger pages aren't listed on here because they're going to go with the actual chart, this chart right here, of putting it together. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick these with the B. Just going to slide them up in here. And it's the size of a sheet of paper, so it fits in my little doohickey here. All right, so now my book is like files now. Look at that. Much better. So there we have it. It's all where it needs to be for my Skulliver. Ta-da! Okay, friends, so that concludes week 3, blocks 13 through 18, or pages 13 through 18, right? Make sure, yep, pages 13 through 18. They're all nicely filed now inside my book, which makes it so much easier. I'm glad I found those. They were in a shelf in another folder not being used. So here's my Skulliver book. It is now even easierly filed instead of it just sitting in the front of the book there in those little plastic sheaths, and it will keep it all in order for me till it's time to put it together. So anyways, I thank you guys all for watching and joining along with this sew along, and don't forget to just breathe because it gets easier. As you can tell, I only had to pick one time this video, so just know it gets easier. And that light box, that was a blessing that I had a friend here in town who had one and watches my videos and said, Tiffany, here you go. So I'm so glad, and she knows who she is. So thank you very much for lending it to me. It makes it easier. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in week 4. Bye.